Hi guys, it's Coach Todd. In this video I'm going to show you how you can use an aerobic threshold test to determine your training zones. So on Saturday during the brick workout, what I had people do was a threshold test for the bike. And then I uploaded the data to my Training Peaks account. So if you don't have a Training Peaks account, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go into my account. The workout was on Saturday, and like I mentioned, I uploaded it from my Garmin, and now I'm just going to open up the workout. So now I'm going to go over to Map and Graph. Your view may be different if you're looking at the beta version of Training Peaks. I like looking at the classic version, but you should be able to get access to the Map and Graph, but you may be clicking different buttons to get it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I got a single view, and I'm going to change it from the map view to the graph view so I can see my data. So when you first look at this is the whole workout. It's about a 90-minute ride, and it's got lots of lines going all over the place, different colors. So we don't need to see all of them. So let's get rid of them. So this blue one is temperature. We'll get rid of that one. Speed, we'll get rid of that one. Elevation, get rid of that one. Cadence, we'll get rid of that one. So what we're left with are two lines, and really this red one here is your heart rate or beats per minute, and this pink or purple one is power or watts. Now, since most of you guys don't have power meter, I'm just going to get rid of that one. And we're going to focus just on the red one, which is the heart rate. So if you look at how the workout progressed, we started off, going very slow, and you can see that the heart rate is low, and my heart rate's like 100, and then it goes up to 105. So I'm not really working that hard. Up here in 120, and then what we did, this little section right here, we did a pre-test. So the pre-test was about, if I click on here, it can tell me. It was about a 4-minute test, about 4:39, give or take. And what we did is we just put a song on, and we rode as hard as we could for the duration of the song. And the idea was just to get ready for the main threshold test that was coming up later on. So this is kind of like just getting us warmed up. Now, afterwards, what we're going to do now is we're going to try and figure out what is our threshold heart rate. And the way we did that in the test, it's a 30-minute test, and we go as hard as we can for 30 minutes. And you can see that the test started right down here, and my heart rate goes right up. And so you can see it slowly climbs. Here I'm 163, and then goes up and up and up. And it kind of plateaus right around here. And so it's plateauing. The average, if I scroll down here, the average of this selection here is 175. So there's a couple of ways you can determine what your threshold is. It's by looking at the graph, and you're going to see a level that plateaus. So for me, this is a plateau point. This is the section here I selected was only 7 minutes. So if you want to make it longer, you can make it longer. You can go from here to about there. And so now we're looking at 10 minutes. And so we're looking at 176, which is really not that big of a difference. If your heart rate plateaus right from the start, right here, right across, you could do the whole duration if you want. Just to show you, if I select the whole test from here to the end, my average is going to be 174. So it's really not that different if I take the whole average or this section here. We're looking at a 175 average. So that's from this test, I can see that my anaerobic threshold on this test is 175. And so then you take that number, and then you're going to plug it into a formula to figure out your training zones. But this is the first step. The first step is looking at your graph. We're looking at, and if you don't have this graph, if your watch doesn't capture the data and you're unable to upload it to a program to analyze it, or even if you were riding in the class and you didn't have a heart rate monitor and you did it the old school way by measuring your pulse, you could take the number that you saw for the most time that you saw during the test, probably after 10 minutes, like 10 to 25 minutes, the number that you saw average from 10 to 25 minutes is really going to be very, very close to your threshold value. So what you do is you take that value and then you're going to put it over into this table. Okay, so this is how I calculate training zones. And what I do is I take the bike threshold heart rate and I plug it in here. So remember, mine was 175. I enter that, and then I go over here and it just calculates it for me, and the calculations are very, very easy. And so let's look at this one here. Basically what it is this threshold value is going to be 85% effort. Okay, so once you know 85%, then you can work backwards or you can work forwards, right? So 85% is 175. Then you determine, well, what is 81? And then you can find that range. So typically this would be zone 4, zone 3, zone 2, and then zone 1. And if you know what the effort's going to be, so 70%, you know what 85 is, then you can determine what 70% is. And the number becomes 144. So zone 1 is going to be less than 144. My zone 2 is 71 to 74%, which comes out to these numbers, and so on and so on. And that's the best way or easiest way to determine your training zones. So once you've figured out your bike training zones, you can determine your run training zones too. And really it's just by adding 10 beats to this. I find generally the run threshold value is going to be 10 beats higher than your bike threshold. Now it could be different for each person for sure, and I find the best way to do the test is to do the same thing with a run test like we did for the bike test, is to do a 30-minute test as hard as you can go for 30 minutes, get your average heart rate, and then work backwards. And if you don't have that, put yourself into a 10K race and go pretty hard, and then you can see your heart rate average out, and then you can determine your zones. And then once you have your zone, then you can really fine-tune your workouts. So when I tell you to be training in zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, you're going to have these training zones that's going to help you to know if you're in the right training zones. And now if you did have a power meter, you can do the exact same thing, but you take the average number that you saw for your power and you do very similar ideas for determining your training zones. If you guys have any questions at all about what your training zones are or how to calculate them, please shoot me a quick email at todd@nolimitstriathlon.com, and I will help you, I'll walk you through it so that you'll know what your training zones are. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to determine your training zones by using the threshold test. That's it. Thanks and happy training.